From the heart of the Space City to the heart of Gen Z, welcome to Next Gen Conversation. Not Dad's Talk Radio. Ethan talks to you about the issues and events that matter to our generation. This is the Next Gen Report with Ethan Buchanan.
Hey everybody, welcome. Oh man, such a lot to get to. A whole lot to get to. I want to start off with something I think kind of fun. We all love to bash on the movie theater, so I think I'm going to do that. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. Give me a quick follow on X at _Ethan Buchanan. And second of all, if you're listening to this right now, I want you to tune in on Sunday to the Sunday show. That's on AM 950 KPRC. If you're in the Houston area, you can listen on your actual radio, or you can listen from anywhere live on the free iHeartRadio app. It's a live broadcast every week. We sit down and talk about all the stuff that's gone on over the course of the week. It's a great time. It's a great show every single weekend. 7 p.m. on Sunday evenings. Check it out. Take a listen. It's fun. We have a good time over there. But yeah, follow me on X. Check that out. Anyway, let's dig into it. I saw this piece from Breitbart, and it kind of got me thinking. October box office hit record low due to movies no one asked for. So John Nolte is who wrote this. He points out that, this is the worst year for the box office that we've seen in the United States since 1997. And it's substantially worse than 1997 because of inflation. So in 1998, the October box office grossed $55.6 million. In October of 1997, the gross was just $385 million. Those 1997 and 1998 numbers do not account for inflation. We're looking at just $425 million this October. So pretty bad box office numbers. There's a lot of blame to go around for this, right? Obviously, I think COVID had a fairly irreversible effect on movies. Most people just feel like, whatever, any movie that I'm interested in seeing, I can wait till it's on any given streaming platform. Most people have access to most of the main streaming platforms now. I have Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and a couple others I think that, I've had passwords shared with me from various people. So most people in the United States have access to most streaming platforms. So why bother going to the movies when I can just wait a few weeks or a few months, depending, and just watch the movies at home, And then another thing that he blames this for is people just aren't interested in the movies. And I think that's definitely part of it. He lists some of the big main kind of blockbusters, I guess. They weren't really blockbusters, but the main drawing films that came out over the last couple of weeks: Tron Ares, that was a flop. Springsteen, Deliver Me Nowhere, flop. The Smashing Machine, Black Phone 2, Boogonia, Chainsaw Man, Roof Man, Anomone, I don't know what that word is, After the Hunt, and Kiss of Spider-Woman. These were some of the big movies that came out over the last few weeks. So, and yeah, most of these did flop. Tron Ares, Springsteen, The Smashing Machine, and Black Phone 2 are the only films on this list that I saw any advertising for. Any, at all. I think that's a bigger factor here than just people just don't like the movies. I think most people don't know anything about these movies, have no reason to go see them. Used to be when there was a big movie coming out, you'd see ads for it everywhere. You'd see posters for it everywhere. You'd even hear ads for some movies on the radio. I haven't seen any advertising for any of these films except Black Phone, Smashing Machines, Springsteen, and Tron Ares. And then for those 4 movies that I have seen advertising for, the only one that did well was Black Phone 2. I mean, it's a horror movie from a popular franchise that came out in October. No kidding. Go figure. Duh, that movie's going to do well. For these other 3 that flopped, The Smashing Machine, I mean, if you're going to do a biopic, it's got to be about somebody that's, well-known broadly, right? The Smashing Machine is not about someone that's well-known broadly. It's about, like, a very specific MMA fighter from a long time ago, before MMA was big. So nobody's going to go see that except big time MMA fans. And again, that's the big issue with biopics. When you do a biopic, you have to market it to bring people into a fandom. Like, you have to be like, you know, you need to reach out to people who aren't necessarily aware, but are vaguely aware of the person and say, here's this kind of cult following that you can be a part of. I think that's why the Elvis movie did so well. Everybody knows who Elvis is, but nobody really knows who Elvis is, you know? And so the Elvis film did really well. So, okay, what about Springsteen? Deliver Me From Nowhere. I think in this particular film's case, this is a problem with the fact that Springsteen is still alive. I think doing a biopic about someone who isn't dead yet is kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm weird like that. But I feel like if you're making a biopic about someone, it should be posthumous. I don't know. And then Tron Ares, again, this is just recycling the same old franchise again and again and again. How many times have we heard this complaint about Hollywood? There's no original ideas, right? So I think all of that is a contributing factor here. Don't blame this all on one thing. It's not just because Hollywood is too woke. It is. But I also think it's because Hollywood doesn't understand the business of Hollywood anymore, which is kind of ironic. But I think that's the point we've gotten to. Hollywood doesn't understand the Hollywood business. I didn't see a single ad for any of these films. Bugonia, Chainsaw Man, Roofman, Anomaly, and After the Hunt, and Kiss of the Spider Woman. Never heard of those until I read this article. So no kidding, they flopped. Tron Ares, how many Tron movies have there been? We get it. We get it. Have an original idea. And these two biopics, I think that's just a classic case of poor execution. I think that's what we're looking at here. That and the prices. Movie theater popcorn is super expensive, prohibitively so. The last time I actually went and saw a movie with my wife, I spent $40 on concessions. Nobody's interested in that. We'll just wait for these movies that we're only kind of vaguely aware of to come out on a streaming platform, and we'll watch them there. That's the big mistake that Hollywood made, was streaming services. And it's great for me because I can watch whatever I want whenever I want. But for the movie theater industry, I think it may have killed it. And it's just kind of slowly dying. That's what we're seeing right now. All right, we got a lot of important stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about some judges rulings in the next segment. And then in the third segment, we're going to be talking more about Zoltar Rob Zombie or whatever his name is in New York. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode of the Next Gen Report. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be right back. All right, I am about to destroy whatever faith you may have had in the legal system. You would think that the people that we have be the judges in our society, the magistrates, the figures of supposedly highest authority, would be the best and brightest of us. Nope, they're the ones we catch peeing on the sidewalk. I'm not kidding. That happened. Arizona judge resigns after being caught allegedly urinating on the street near courthouses. This is disgusting. An Arizona Superior Court judge has resigned after allegedly being caught urinating in public just steps from the courthouse where she served. Prescott police responded around 1:30 a.m. on October 4th after witnesses reported a woman relieving herself near Montezuma and Gurley Street, the same block as the courthouse plaza where she worked. And of course, body cam footage shows the entire interaction. Look, you can there kind of see her throwing up and peeing on the sidewalk right there in the corner. What's kind of funny to me, and I don't think this article actually mentions it, is her husband actually gets arrested for interfering in all of that. Take a watch of this body cam footage real quick.
Are you her husband?
Yep.
Okay. Can you hang out over by the cab for me?
Nope. Come on.
Yeah, you can, because I'm conducting an investigation.
For what?
Because I just saw her puking and urinating, exposing herself to several
Nope,
people.
that wasn't her.
Nope, that wasn't her. Now, again, I'm not playing you the video because it's gross, but I showed you the picture. You can very clearly see her doing exactly what she's accused of in the body cam footage.
Okay, you can go by the cab or you can continue to interfere with the investigation. Come on, babe. Okay. No. Last chance, go over to the cab. No. Okay, well, then you're detained.
Stop.
You can't do this.
I'm going to throw you on the ground if you resist. I gave you several chances, and you don't want to listen.
We have a cab. There, baby.
515-1 resisting.
Stop.
Not doing anything.
Not doing anything. I'm not realistic. So long story short, the husband gets arrested. The judge gets a citation for, I think, public indecency or something like that. And she's, of course, resigned. So that gives you an idea of just the class of person that we're now having be judges now. What was she doing? What was a judge doing out at 1:30 in the morning? Okay, fair enough. You just wanted to have a nice night out. Maybe she was going clubbing or what have you. Whatever people do out drunk at 1:30 in the morning. I can't imagine it's anything good, but that's who we've got, as judges now. Here's another fun judge. Judge rules Trump can't require U.S. citizenship for voting on federal voting forms. President Donald Trump's request to add a documentary proof of citizenship requirement to the federal voter registration form cannot be enforced, a federal judge ruled Friday. U.S. District Judge Colleen Collar-Cotley in Washington, D.C., sided with Democratic and civil rights groups that sued Trump administration over his executive order to overhaul U.S. elections. She ruled that the proof of citizenship directive is an unconstitutional violation of the separation of powers. So the argument here is, according to the Constitution, the states are in charge of their elections. They administer them as they please. And I think that makes sense. I see the logic that the founding fathers had in that. You don't want the federal government cramming down its own mandates and dictates that are, hypothetically unnecessary on the individual states. If you look at it in their perspective in the kind of late 1700s when they're writing this, it makes a lot of sense, right? You want people to be kind of individual and independent, and that's what they were going for with the United States. In the modern context, that just unfortunately doesn't work. I think there's a very strong case to be made that I, in Texas, now in 2025, have a vested interest in how California elections are run, at least elections for federal positions in California, right? Because that does affect me. These people, how they vote, has an effect on me in Texas. How they vote for the president affects me. How they vote for their representatives to a more separate extent, to a farther extent, also affects me. So I think there's an argument to be made that you need to have some federal standards for federal elections for federal positions. Now, does that mean I want the federal government to tell, New York or California how they elect their governor? No. But I think for, presidential elections, for elections for the House of Representatives and the Senate, I think there is a case to be made that some basic standards be imposed at the federal level. Like, hey, if this is a federal position, you have to make sure that the people voting for that federal position are at least citizens. I don't think that's a huge burden. I think that's reasonable. But we don't have that in the United States. We just don't. I mean, we have the rule, right? You have to be a citizen to vote. We all know that. That's understood law. There's really practically no enforcement of that. In fact, you have states like California that are actively trying to undermine that rule and make it as easy as possible to break. That affects me. That affects other parts of the country. So if you want that to be the standard in California for California statewide elections, you want anybody to be able to vote so long as they're a resident for who the governor of California is, fine, go crazy, I don't care. Elect an illegal alien, elect a communist, go bananas. who the governor of New York is, or the governor of California, or the mayor of New York, that doesn't really affect me that much. But who California is voting to be the president, that does affect me. That does. Because that's the federal level. I have to live under those policies. And we could very well have, if the Democrats get their way, a situation in which only the votes of New York and California matter in presidential elections. If you cram so many illegal aliens that all get counted on the census, and those two states get so many electoral college votes that only they matter when it comes to voting for the presidency, that affects me. That affects me. And it's very easy to see the reality in which that occurs. Thankfully, I think Donald Trump's presidency is making that reality a lot less likely, but it's still out there. That possibility is still out there, and I don't like the idea of that. I don't want to have to live in that society. So I think some very basic federal standards are justified, are necessary even. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. Most voters think that. This is a Gallup 2024 poll, so, it's been several months at least. But I have to imagine this hasn't changed that much. 83% of voters are in favor of proof of citizenship for voter registration. 83%. That's not some fringe minority. That's not the radical Republicans. That's most people. 15% oppose. I have to imagine that 15% is the very far left radical base of the Democrat Party who understand the game here. And here's what the game is. The game is you pack states that are already Democrat with illegal aliens. Those illegal aliens get counted on the census. Things like congressional seats and, electoral college votes are allocated based on those gamed numbers. And then you have the people who are citizens, who are already radical leftists, turn around and vote for the Democrat, and the Democrat wins every single time. Because all you need is the radical left base of a California or a New York, and then you get 150 hypothetical electoral college votes apiece. That's the game here. I don't like that. I don't want that reality. And it's clear that that's what the Democrats do want, so we need to take safeguards. We do. All right, stay tuned. We got a lot more coming up. We'll be right back with more on this. All right, continuing on the topic of voting. I think it's important for everyone to understand this isn't just like a conspiracy theory. This isn't even just political theory. This is demonstrably and obviously what the left has been trying to do politically over the last several years. This has been their goal. They haven't tried particularly hard to hide it. And if they have tried hard, they didn't do a very good job. It's pretty obvious. To kind of make that point, I want to show you this video of the California State Assembly. Here is this guy calling out directly members of the California State Assembly and showing them, look, here's how easy it is to do things like vote illegally. That's kind of farther off in the distance, but that's part of the plan too. If having citizens vote for your ridiculous policies is great, then having even more non-citizens vote for your ridiculous policies is even better. So what do? You import them, and not only do they give you more electoral college votes, they actually give you practical votes. They will actually just vote for you. You don't need them to just be warm bodies sitting in the state. You can actually bust them into the polls and win elections that way too. This is happening right now in California. Take a watch.
The idea that someone would actually vote illegally with the penalties that are in place.
It happens all the time, Senator.
It happens.
Okay, first of all, real quick, that's a stupid argument. The idea that someone wouldn't do this crime because of all the penalties that we have in place, it's just preposterous. Really? Because we don't have strict penalties for other crimes that people do? Really? Anyway.
All the time. You're just
presented-
saying it's not widespread, but I'm saying we don't know how spread it is because we don't detect it. I'm on the website for the state of California to register to vote. On the section that has where you put in your driver's license, your last four of your social, there's a box underneath each one that says, I don't have one. I don't have one. And then you're allowed to proceed to go to vote. So this idea that you're not allowed to register to vote unless you present some sort of identification is not accurate. It's not true. It's not being implemented in the state of California. Additionally, people are being registered to vote at the DMV. And we already know based on audits that the DMV has improperly registered people to vote, including illegal immigrants. And we have immunity in place that says if the DMV registers someone who is not eligible, they're immune from prosecution. So I don't believe we have sufficient safeguards in place that detect and prevent people from committing voter fraud.
So he's correctly pointing out that it's very easy to get things like a driver's license in California. And once you have that driver's license, it's very easy to do things like register to vote or go vote. And as a quick Google search will point out, you don't have to be a citizen to get a California's driver's license. And then you can use that to go register to vote, or you can just register to vote without it. It's that easy. As he points out, there's exceptions. I don't have one. I don't have one. I don't have one. And you can still register to vote. Just for fun and games, let's do some quick research. Do I need my ID to vote in California? A California voter is not required to show identification at a polling place before casting a ballot. So you can just pinky promise that you're allowed to do this and put your vote in. Does that seem like a safe system? Do we really want to put the entire faith and trust of our elections on the honor system? Really? I, for one, don't. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think I can trust these people. I don't think I can trust the Democrats that run California to put things like law and order over their political agenda. I don't. I think the moment they get a bunch of ballots from anybody, including people who aren't supposed to vote, that are all voting the way they want them to, they're just going to say, oh, well, what can you do? And then when you try to say, actually, we should strengthen these laws, we should add some teeth to these laws, some enforcement, the Democrats will turn around and say, no, we don't need that. There's already strict penalties in place. No, there's not. No, there's not. Not really. I mean, if you get caught, sure, but what are the chances you're going to get caught? California's not checking. They don't care. So who's going to catch you? The feds? Maybe. But that's hundreds of millions of people that the feds have to sift through. What are the odds that they're going to catch the, relatively small number of voters in these different localities and states that are voting illegally? It's up to the states to administer their elections. That's what the Constitution says. I think this is a weak point in the Constitution. I think we do need to have some light. I'm not saying draconian. I'm saying just basic, hey, you have to make sure that these people are citizens. You can run your elections however you want. But when it's federal elections for federal positions, you can do whatever you want so long as you're clearing these bars. I don't think that's too far. I think not doing it is foolish and naive at best. Anyway, let's talk about the Zoran Mamdani voter. I think it's important for us to actually analyze who are the types of people that actually went out and voted for Zoran Mamdani. And the short answer is they're idiots, right? But there's a lot more to it than that. So I want to show you this clip of a literal communist. I mean, you can kind of see it right now in just the thumbnail of this video. He's wearing a literal communist t-shirt. And here he is talking about how great it is that Zoran Mamdani is going to be bringing in publicly owned grocery stores, which is a horrible idea on its face, but take a listen.
The grocery store capitalists, which have quite a powerful lobby, right? One of the grocery store bosses, he said of Gristedes, right? He said that he was going to pull out of New York City if Zoran won, right? We would say, sure, pull out, and we will take over your grocery stores, right? And we will use them for cheaper groceries, and we will take over the entire food industry because that's something that can be done if the working class is organized.
That's something that can be done if the working class is. Go ahead, pull out. We'll take over your grocery stores. My message is this: good luck. Good luck. No, go for it. Where have we ever seen this tried and worked? Give me one example. There isn't any. This never works. This is not an efficient way. The government running a grocery store does not work. But if you're so confident, give it a shot. But the actual root kind of ideology here is this guy just really thinks the grocery stores are evil. How dare you be profiteering off food, which is what everybody needs. You're the reason people go hungry. La-di-da-di-da. There's this idea that we're just getting rich by charging too high prices for groceries, and we're starving the poors, and only the rich can afford to eat. Ha ha ha, we're so evil. The problem with that is the facts don't actually back it up. Average net profit margin for grocery stores is typically very slim, ranging from 1% to 3%. So this idea that it's the grocery store capitalists and the grocery store lobbies that are just screwing people out of food and furthering poverty, it doesn't add up. It doesn't match reality. 1.3% is the profit margin. That's not a lot. That's just enough for someone to say, well, I might as well keep doing this because I'm making a little bit of money on it. That's it. Nobody is just getting obscenely rich by starving people. I mean, there are people that are getting rich in the grocery store industry, but it's because their profits are so low. So they're bringing in huge amounts of sales, and that's where they get their money. It's not because, oh, I'm charging you freaking $45 for a box of cereal. It's because I'm charging you the bare minimum that I can charge you to keep this grocery store running, and you still buy the product. And maybe there's a little off the top for me for my time and effort. And these people are the bad guys to the Zoran Mamdani voter, to the communists who don't understand how our economy actually works. The dirty little secret is people need a profit incentive in order to actually work and work well. Sure, maybe you can get a few mindless drones to kind of barely prop the Jenga tower up, but it's not going to be a stable system. It's not going to be a growth system. You're going to see at best complete stagnation, and at worst a drop-off in supplies. Because there's no reason to do this. The publicly owned grocery stores aren't going to be able to pay the same prices for the wholesale goods that a Walmart will be able to. And the Walmarts will leave town. They will. Because they're not going to be able to compete with the upfront pricing. And so what eventually happens is everybody only can go to the government grocery stores, and there's just not enough food there. That's why we had bread lines in Soviet Russia. And that's what people in New York are voting for. That's what the communist radical base of the left in New York City, that's what they want. We're going to talk about this a lot more. There's way more here to dig into. So stay tuned for the very last segment, and we're going to flesh this out a little bit more. We'll be right back. All right, so continuing with who the kind of Zoran Mamdani voters actually are, because I do think this is important for us to understand what this political movement is, because it's not going away. It's not just going to disappear, right? This is obviously something big that's happening in America's most major city, so it's important to understand it. Know your enemy, right? I think there are essentially two primary types of people who vote for a Zorhan Mamdani. I think it's one, actual true believer communist idiots, like that guy from that last segment. But then it's also just people who do it for the vibes. And I think it's mostly people who just do it for the vibes. I'll show you an example of this. I think this lady is actually the primary Zoltar Ramzambi voter. This lady, who is a Mamdani voter, legitimately has no clue what she's voting for. She's just doing it because that's what you do, right? Take a listen.
Who are you voting for mayor?
I am voting Mamdani
And why?
because he's the most obvious choice.
What makes him an obvious choice for you?
It's just like, I'm trying to think.
It's just like I'm trying to think. She has no idea why he's the obvious choice. Let me just put this in perspective for you. If someone asked me at any given point why I was voting for Trump, I could have instantly given you a clear and concise answer. Why are you voting for Trump? I think he's the obvious choice. Why is he the obvious choice? Because he's the only candidate who's really speaking out strongly against the border. And we've had a number of major social and societal issues come from the fact that we have a wide open border, primarily a spike in crime rates and federal spending in order to deal with these people. And it's not sustainable. Trump says he wants to fix it. I believe him. That's why I'm voting for him. That's why I think he's the obvious choice. Boom. Easy. This lady couldn't tell you to save her life why she voted for Mamdani. It gets worse. Take a listen.
This reminds me of a certain comedy sketch where the comedian was like, we could either vote in one guy and he's gonna give everybody free houses, free rent, and he's gonna give everybody a Lamborghini, or we could vote in somebody who's gonna burn down the city. That's why I'm voting Mamdani, because I'm voting for the guy who give me the Lamborghini.
Yes.
I'm voting for the guy who's just gonna give me stuff. I don't care where it comes from or how he does it or whether or not he can do it, but he said he was gonna give me stuff, so I'm gonna vote for him. That's how people think. Remember the famous JFK quote? Ask not what your government can do for you, but what you can do, or ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That was the Democrats of the 60s. This is the complete polar opposite of that, and this is one of the defining movements inside the Democrat Party. Ask only what the government can do for you, not how they're even going to do it for you, just what they're going to do. That's all she cares about. He said he was going to give me stuff. He said he was going to make my rent cheaper. Watch this guy. This guy, I don't know who this is, geniusly and immediately pokes a massive hole in this lady's entire argument. Take a listen.
So you think Mamdani's like just gonna give you guys everything?
Not everything. I'm saying it's the most obvious choice.
What do you think is gonna happen with government-run grocery stores and free buses? Do you think that sounds like a good idea?
That does sound like a good idea.
And freezing the rent?
That does sound like a good idea.
What if they have to freeze the rent to the point where eventually then the landlord's not able to come in and fix the washer and make profit on his own lease?
That's their problem.
You short-sighted buffoon. That's their problem. If the landlord can't do repairs on the house, that's their problem. It's not my house. I just live in it. These people are stupid. They really are. They really are stupid. It's the landlord's problem. It's not my house. Yeah, but you live in it. Where are you going to live when the house you've been living in or the apartment you've been living in has to be condemned because they can't do the basic repairs they have to do on it because it's too expensive and they can't make enough money off the house to do repairs on the house? What happens then? That's their problem. She just accidentally discovered the entire concept behind renting versus owning a home. Because if you could just hop over to another home, then yeah, it's not really your problem. You just move into a different apartment or a different house. You just rent somewhere else. But if every single house is in the same situation and your only option is to leave the city, then what do? She doesn't have the mental capacity to think that far. This woman is truly stupid. But she'll go out and vote for Zoran Mamdani because he's the obvious choice. Why? I don't know. He's going to give me some stuff. He's going to give me some things, man. That's why. Great. You know what? Go bananas. Let me know how it works out for you. Let me know how it works out for you. These people are stupid. There's also this attempt right now to kind of reframe Zoran Mamdani. He's not actually a communist. He's just a democratic socialist. Those things are different. How are they different? Nobody knows. Byron Donalds, who's probably going to be the next governor of Florida, actually called out CNN for this, for trying to reframe Zoran Mamdani as anything other than a dirty commie, which is what he is. Take a listen.
When you put in communist and yes, communist policies, that's what Zoran Mamdani is talking about.
He's not a communist.
It never
Democratic
works.
Socialist. He says he's a democratic
I can't tell what the difference is.
Well, he can describe
Explain what the difference is.
He can describe the differences for you. The socialism is not the same basis of communism in this country. You know that quite
The
well.
man wants to create government-run grocery stores. He wants free transportation, both of which are impossible to do. Because how is
a trigger word to try to undermine all of his policies. He's not a. He says he's. I
don't need to undermine his policies. His policies undermine himself.
Well,
because they've never worked. Here's all I want him to do. Tell me where they've ever worked. They've never worked. He knows that. I knows that. But what he's trying to do is promise everybody something that they can't have. And the truth is there is no free lunch, just like there's no free bus. Because you know what happens when you have a free bus? There's nobody there to fix it or to drive it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's the ultimate problem. If there's no profit, there's no reason for anyone to actually do any of this stuff. There's no ability for people to actually do any of this stuff. You don't want landlords to make any money off of the land they own and rent out to you. Great. What happens when you need to repair the house? You think every single landlord is going to go out there and do the repairs on the houses they own themselves like my grandfather did? My grandfather owned several rental homes. Whenever there was an issue that wasn't obscenely major, my grandfather would just grab his tools, go to Lowe's, grab the supplies, and do it himself. He was able to do that because he was making profits to fund those repairs on the homes that he was renting out. Not everybody is in that situation. They don't have the skill set, and if you take away the profit, they can't even pay someone else to do it. That is the ultimate issue. And then the idea that Zoran Mamdani isn't a communist, he's just a democratic socialist. You know who to disagree with that is probably Zoran, who can be seen here in this tweet from 2020 directly quoting the Communist Manifesto. Each according to their need, each according to their ability. Oh, that sounds like a nice kind of example of just regular old private charity. Yeah, that's what it should be. Everybody just gives what they can to people who need it, and we all live happy-dory. Except that's from the Communist Manifesto. That's literally a direct quote from the Communist Manifesto. That's been a communist rally cry for years. This guy is a communist. He clearly is. His policies are clearly communist. I don't care what label you put on it. Call it democratic socialism if that makes it sound more palatable to these stupid voters who just want a free house. It's communism. It doesn't work. It kills people. It kills people. We have to understand not only this movement, but the people voting for it if we want to actually defeat it on a national level, which is critically important. We have to defeat this on a national level. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. Sunday, 7 p.m., AM 950, KPRC. Tune in. You're not going to want to miss it. It's a great show. And hey, real quick, give me a follow on X @_Ethan Buchanan. Thank you very much for listening to the Next Gen Report. I'll see you Sunday evening.